So, okay, what actually happens when you have this, like, ancient vampire, 1,400 years old, really world-weary, and she's suddenly forced to take in the one person, the one guy, who's uh, contractually obligated by this immortal decree to spend, well, basically the rest of eternity just trying to stab her.
Right, and you'd think, well, chaos.
Right.
Just pure chaos. But the answer is not just chaos. It turns into this incredibly bizarre, a forced domesticity situation.
Yeah.
And it all hinges entirely on one really unfortunate thing.
Which is it?
Global amnesia, a complete, total memory wipe.
Wow. Okay, so today we're diving deep into this unbelievably complex dynamic. It goes back centuries.
Yeah.
Between the vampire Aethelthryth, who, let's be honest, just goes by Ethel for everyone. Sammy,
Easier.
much easier.
Yeah.
And her immortal nemesis, the Slayer, Lazlo Enyedi. Our sources, they detail this relentless back and forth, this antagonism, then this completely unexpected life-saving moment, and then the absolutely ridiculous situation that follows when Lazlo gets his memory just wiped clean.
Yeah. And our mission here really is to unpack how a relationship that's defined by, like, immortal hatred. I mean, 1,000 years of attempted stabbings and decapitations. How does that just flip overnight because of, wow, a bump on the head? It seems to uncover this deep, secret, maybe affection hidden under all that violence.
It's fascinating. So the real question for this deep dive isn't just what happened. It's maybe more like, how long does consistent action, actual behavior take to overcome a destructive label?
Exactly. It's the observation versus the predetermined role.
Let's start with the history then. Let's talk about Ethel, the Hunted. She is ancient. We're talking like 8th century East Anglia, a nunnery.
Yeah, that ancient. And the sources paint her as, well, stubborn, definitely focused, trying to find these little pockets of joy, despite the whole immortality thing. And surprisingly, she seems to have this kind of ethical framework for her hunting.
Which is, I mean, that's a contradiction right there, isn't it?
It's a huge internal contradiction. She's a predator, obviously. But the horse material really notes her focus on, let's say, efficiency and relative ethics. She hunts only in Manhattan and specifically goes after targets like Goldman Sachs executives.
Seriously?
Yeah. Her view is apparently quite pragmatic.
Yeah.
If you have to suck someone dry, why not make it count?
So a kind of utilitarian approach to murder. Does the source material dig into that? The hypocrisy, maybe? How that complexity immediately sort of challenges the simple vampire bad, slayer good narrative?
Oh, absolutely. It does, because that complexity is really the key here. You have the Helsing Guild, this big organization mandating her death, seeing her as just a soulless beast. But Ethel sees herself maybe as a necessary evil who's trying to limit her impact. And this nuance, this difference, is exactly what her constant shadow, Lazlo Enyedi, has been watching for centuries.
And Lazlo himself, he's defined by his skill, right? This incredible stillness, almost unnerving, those amber yellow eyes, very striking. And the tattoos.
Yeah, those tattoos are really unique. Eastern European, Old Turkic script, Carpathian designs. The script itself suggests this legacy, this history, stretching way beyond just the guild's immediate orders.
Right. And their dynamic wasn't just, casual dislike. This was constant aggressive hunting, fully sanctioned by the guild. And the peak of it all, the real flashpoint, was the Berlin incident. 1989.
Yeah, that scene. It perfectly sums up their whole relationship, really.
Okay, so picture this. The Berlin Wall is literally coming down, crowds cheering, cameras everywhere, history happening, and Ethel is cornered by Lazlo, trapped.
Right, and how does she escape? She pulls the ultimate social convention weapon. She loudly claims he's her honey pie, and they were just, making out.
Because the guild, for all its power, had this strict rule against public murder.
Especially if the BBC might be filming it live. It's like weaponizing bureaucracy against ancient hatred. It's kind of brilliant.
And Lazlo's response? The source says it was ice cold. He leans in, gives this smile that definitely wasn't a smile, and just licks Ethel's blood clean off his dagger, meticulously.
Oh, yeah. That's the level of intense, simmering aggression we're talking about, just beneath the surface.
And maybe we should quickly clarify the stakes for, for you listening. Vampires, like Ethel, killed by sunlight. Slayers, like Lazlo, they're immortal unless they get beheaded.
Right, so sharp objects are still key, but often they're used for what Ethel calls, amusingly, light stabbing. just to incapacitate, not always to kill immediately.
Okay, so fast forward from Berlin, we get to the current crisis. Ethel's dealing with this rival, another ancient vampire she mentally calls the ancient dirtbag vampire.
Yeah, to name.
Very. And apparently, he is over 1,000 years old. He ambushes her. She ends up tied up in this abandoned building in Soho, facing an east window. Sun's coming up.
And just when it looks like toast,
Yeah.
cue Lazlo. But the shock isn't just that he shows up, it's that he saves her.
He kills the ancient dirtbag vampire.
Well, he deals with him, yeah. But crucially, he physically shoves Ethel out of the way of the fatal sunbeam, only to immediately get taken out himself when a collapsing ceiling beam knocks him out cold.
Yow. The ultimate irony. The one person whose entire job is to kill her.
Saves her life.
And now he's completely vulnerable, totally reliant on the very vampire he's supposed to hunt, and boom, global amnesia, blank slate.
Right. So now Ethel's stuck. Abandoned building, sun coming up soon. With her immortal nemesis, he's incredibly strong, incredibly skilled, but has absolutely no idea who he is or who she is. She's got maybe 6 hours till sunset to figure out how to survive him waking up.
Her solution is, well, it's something else. A desperate, frankly ridiculous cover story. She tells him they're just business associates.
Yet with the relationship defined by, quote, mutual professional annoyance.
Perfect. And his job. The immoral slayer for the guild, she translates that to exterminator, for a boutique pest control company.
And the name she invents for this company, No Pest for the Gilded.
Oh, that's just the layers of irony. She must have been choking on it.
Had to be unbearable. And it gets better. Her job. The ancient vampire.
She tells him she's an entomologist, a scientist who studies insects and wants to keep them alive. The exact opposite.
Exactly. And when he, naturally, asks why she can't go out during the day, she claims she is allergic to the sun.
Yeah.
The symptoms like boils and pus.
Boils and pus. And Lazlo just buys it. Even the observer extraordinaire.
Well, it shows just how deep that amnesia runs. No context, no history to contradict her. But his fundamental nature, that awareness, it's still there. The lie starts failing almost immediately.
That's the fascinating part, isn't it? The amnesia took his memories, his who, but not his what, not his core skills, his observation powers. He can still instantly sketch the building blueprints from memory, count cars outside, guess her weight, her age.
And the source emphasizes age to the decimal point.
Right, which tells you just how intensely he tracked every single year of her existence before.
Absolutely. And the most chilling moment, he immediately spots the dagger she took from his boot, the hidden one, looks right at her and says, I can never be near you and not know exactly what you are to me.
Oof. So even with no memory, there's this pull, this recognition.
His body remembers something, a connection, an intensity, even if his brain can't label it right. So the lie is paper thin, which leads to this really weirdly mundane, almost sweet period of forced cohabitation once they get back to her apartment.
Yeah, her cozy, maybe slightly dusty apartment.
Right, and this is where the playing field just gets totally leveled. 1,000 years of fighting just dissolves because suddenly the ultimate slayer is actually better at basic domestic stuff than the 1,400-year-old vampire.
Lazlo, the feared killer, ends up fixing her breakfast attempt.
Yeah. She tries to make eggs and apparently messes up spectacularly. He steps in like he forgot how to boil water somewhere in the last millennium.
And it goes both ways, right? He teaches her stuff too.
He teaches her card games, something simple and modern maybe, and she, the ancient scholar type, has to teach him the actual rules of Sudoku, which he apparently thought was just random number writing designed to annoy people.
Huh. Okay, so when they're forced outside their usual roles, slayer, vampire.
They just become two people, sharing small, kind of productive moments, fixing things, learning games. It really makes you think, doesn't it? If you strip away the labels that society or history sticks on us, what kind of maybe just simple, decent people do we naturally become?
We kind of get an answer to that, don't we? Because the peace doesn't last. The ancient dirtbag vampire, turns out he wasn't quite dead.
Not quite decapitated enough, apparently. He reappears later that night, right in the middle of this chaotic Halloween street scene, and attacks Ethel again. And that threat, that's the trigger, the catalyst for the truth.
Because Lazlo has to fight.
Exactly. The immediate need to protect Ethel, to fight this ancient enemy, it forces everything back. Full memory recovery. Slayer reflexes kick in instantly. He decapitates the rival vampire properly this time. And in that moment, he calls her by her true name.
Aethelthryth.
Aethelthryth. And just like that, the whole exterminator cover story is just gone. incinerated by pure reflex.
And then the real story comes out, the hidden history, and it's staggering. Lazlo reveals he hadn't actually been working for the Helsing Guild for
Centuries.
4 centuries, not recently, 400 years ago.
What changed? How?
It all traces back to a single conversation, a masquerade ball sometime in the 1600s. He actually talked with Ethel, properly talked about things like kindness, legacy, and he realized she just wasn't the soulless beast the guild kept telling him she was. That one conversation apparently changed his entire immortal existence.
And we need to stress the commitment here. He didn't just, quit his job. No. He had to actively fight his former organization. The sources say he had to fight off other slayers they sent after him, setting them back with their heads cut off, quote-unquote. He literally severed his old ties, proving that protecting Ethel, or at least not hunting her, was worth ditching his entire identity.
So all those hunts after that, the Berlin incident, everything.
And they're basically an act, an elaborate excuse. It was the only way he knew how to get near her, to spend time with her, even if it was just once a decade or so. His whole motivation flipped based purely on critical observation over centuries.
He'd been secretly watching her, not just hunting, but watching.
For centuries, yeah. Noting what the source calls her simple, mundane acts of kindness. Helping people who seemed weak, sharing money sometimes, and my favorite detail, apparently walking her neighbor's dog, Pumpkin, back in the 1930s when the owner, Mrs. Cole, broke her hip.
Pumpkin the dog.
Pumpkin the dog. He valued these small day-to-day choices, her humanity, basically, shown through ordinary actions, way more than her label as vampire. He watched all this and just concluded basically that the world was better because you were in it.
Wow. Okay. And then comes the final confirmation, the ultimate proof of his loyalty shift.
Yes, he makes his unprecedented invitation. And the source stresses it's legally binding in their immortal world. He asks her to be with him, quote, "Here or in any other place that I will call home for as long as I live." He's essentially binding himself to her, giving up his independence.
And Ethel, she's just survived another attack she desperately needs to feed.
Right, she's reeling. And his next move just floors her. Lazlo pulls out a knife and offers her his own hand, freely given, for her to drink.
Whoa, that's huge.
It's massive. For Ethel, this is completely transformative. She notes it's the very first time she's ever had blood that was just freely given. No fight, no struggle. And she describes it as, well, profoundly vitalizing, but also sexual, merging pleasure and nutrients. It cements their bond beyond just affection. It becomes this mutual act of devotion, of survival even.
So the truth is out, the history is reframed. How do they move forward?
They decide, quite simply, to get even. For all the centuries of lost time, of antagonism, they decide to get even by just spending all their time together now.
Making up for lost time. So what does their new normal look like?
It's highly coordinated, mainly around keeping Ethel safe from the sun. They travel with the seasons, basically, South America in the summer, North in the winter, always chasing the night. They actively avoid other immortals' too much baggage, presumably, but they actually lean into human connection, befriending neighbors, adopting stray cats. It seems like they crave that mundane happiness they denied themselves for so long.
And there's a tradition they establish.
Yeah, a really sweet one. The Halloween tradition. Every year they go back home on the anniversary of their reunion, let's call it. The night the amnesia broke, they just sit on his stoop, hand out candy to trick-or-treaters. The source even mentions one year seeing a little girl dressed as a vampire, holding hands with a little boy dressed as a vampire hunter, saying they planned to marry.
Oh, the symbolism.
Right, and during this, Lazlo shares just a sip of his blood with her, just confirming that this impossible relationship, born from amnesia and secret surveillance, this is their new normal. It's enduring.
So the key takeaway here, maybe for you listening, is really about the power of observation and consistent kindness. Lazlo completely changed his life's path, his whole identity, because he watched Ethel's day-to-day actions, not because of her supernatural label, the truth of who someone is. Maybe it's really found in the small, mundane things they do over time.
Absolutely. Yeah. This deep dive really shows how even ancient hatred, can basically dissolve. If one person consistently chooses kindness, or at least acts in a way that isn't monstrous, Lazlo's shift wasn't just emotional, it was evidence-based, which is honestly a powerful lesson in managing information overload, maybe. Look at the actions, not just the label.
And that brings us to our final thought for you to maybe mull over. If you're in a world where your greatest enemy, your nemesis, is also your greatest constant, how does finding shared, simple happiness actually change the meaning of your own immortality? Could it be that the greatest adventure isn't fighting monsters or saving the world, but just learning how to live a quiet, happy, mundane life with the person you were literally supposed to kill.
Something to definitely ponder until our next deep dive.